They say the law ends at the prison gates, but inside, a different law begins. No written codes. No official handbook. Yet every inmate knows them, because breaking these rules can cost you your life. These aren't the rules written by wardens. They're the ones written by survival. Today, we're stepping inside the walls where violence, silence, and respect decide who eats and who bleeds. These are the prison rules you never knew existed. Forget what you've seen in movies. In real prisons from Rikers Island to San Quentin, there's a system so complex that even new guards take months to understand it. Every block, every yard, every table in the mess hall is controlled by an unspoken order. Cross the wrong line literally, even a step, and you'll learn the meaning of instant regret. A former inmate once said, "It's like living in a jungle made of concrete. Everyone has a role, predator or prey. And the first thing you learn on day one, mind your business. Because curiosity here isn't rewarded. It's punished." In prison, even a seat can be a death sentence. Cafeterias and recreation yards are invisible maps of race, gangs, and alliances. The white inmates sit together. The black inmates hold down another section. The Hispanics, their own territory. And the independent ones? Usually in the corners, if they're lucky enough to stay alive there. No one will tell you these rules, you're just expected to know. If a new guy sits at the wrong table, conversation stops. Forks freeze midair. And then, someone stands up. That's when you realize this isn't just lunch. It's territory. And you just trespassed. Guards rarely interfere. By the time they notice, it's already too late. One wrong seat can earn you a scar you'll carry forever. Or worse, you'll leave the cafeteria in a stretcher. You might think asking someone, "What are you in for?" is small talk. Inside, it's suicide-level stupidity. Because in here, some crimes carry a hidden stigma. Child abuse, rape, crimes against the elderly. Even among killers, there's a hierarchy of evil. If an inmate's secret gets exposed, it can trigger a manhunt inside the prison walls. One rumor, and he's a marked man. So the smart ones? They don't ask questions. You let people reveal what they want if they ever do. As one former lifer said, "The less you know, the longer you live." And that's not just talk. It's survival. Forget money. Forget status. Inside, respect is everything. You disrespect another man, even by accident, you'd better be ready to fight for your life. A bump in the hallway? That's a challenge. Looking too long at someone's cell? That's disrespect. Taking food before the man ahead of you? That's an insult. And the thing about prison is nobody wants to look weak. So, fights aren't always about anger. Sometimes they're about showing you won't be broken. Because once you lose respect, you lose safety. You lose protection. You lose your name. That's why inside, every inmate has their version of a code. I might not win every fight, but you'll remember I fought back. That alone can keep you alive. One of the oldest traps in prison starts with a smile. A pack of cigarettes, a snack, a favor, all free. But nothing's ever free behind bars. Because every item has a price, and that price might be your freedom, your dignity, or your life. An inmate who takes a gift might later be told, "You owe me." And when the payback comes, it's never what you expect. It could mean carrying a weapon. It could mean distracting a guard. It could mean hurting someone, maybe someone you've never even met. That's how the cycle begins. One small favor. One big mistake. A former inmate described it best. The moment you take something free, you just sold yourself. And you didn't even know it. People think guards are the law inside. But even the guards follow their own rules. Some look the other way, as long as there's peace. Others, they thrive on tension. They'll test inmates, provoke them, even play favorites to keep control through fear. There's a saying in one maximum security prison. The guards aren't protecting you. They're protecting the system. And that system runs on balance. Too much power in one group? Transfers happen. Too many fights? Lockdowns begin. It's all part of the unspoken understanding. Everyone's just trying to make it to tomorrow, guards included. In the outside world, being honest might make you a good citizen. Inside, it makes you a dead one. Snitches Get Stitches isn't a movie quote, it's a daily reality. Telling the guards about a fight, a stash, or a plan will earn you a label that never leaves. Once you're marked a snitch, every inmate knows. And your days are numbered. That's why even innocent men stay silent. Because silence in prison isn't weakness. It's insurance. A former inmate from Folsom once said, "You could die for telling the truth, or you could live for keeping your mouth shut." Most choose the latter. Racial lines are sharper inside than anywhere else in America. It's not about hatred, it's about structure. Every group protects its own, controls its corner, and enforces its code. Black, white, Latino, Asian, everyone has their circle. Crossing that line isn't just dangerous, it's forbidden. But here's the twist, it's not always about hate. It's about survival in a world built on division. Inmates follow racial order, because breaking it means chaos, and chaos means blood. Even friendships across lines are rare, secret, and risky. Because loyalty inside isn't about who you like. It's about who will have your back when the knives come out. We've seen how invisible laws decide life or death inside the walls. But the most shocking rules? They're the ones even the guards can't talk about. The ones that involve punishment without paperwork, justice without judges, and secrets buried in solitary cells. Because in the world's toughest prisons, the real power doesn't wear a uniform. It hides behind the walls. Every prison has a hierarchy. But it's not the guards at the top, it's the inmates who've earned their status through fear, respect, and time. They're known by many names, shot callers, OGs, the table. They don't shout orders, they whisper them. And somehow, the whole prison listens. If a new rule spreads across the yard, no one knows where it started. But everyone knows who it belongs to. These leaders decide who eats with who gets protection, and who disappears when things go wrong. Even guards tread carefully around them, because some of these men have been running the same blocks for 20 years. One retired officer said, "You can have the keys to the cells, but they have the keys to the yard." In prison, fear has a scent. And the moment someone smells it, on you, you're done. Walk too fast? You're scared. Avoid eye contact? You're scared. Speak too politely? Definitely scared. It sounds absurd, but perception is everything behind bars. Even the smallest sign of nervousness invites predators. That's why even the weakest inmates learn to walk tall, stare straight, and speak calmly. Because showing fear is like dripping blood into shark-infested water. A former inmate once said, "Inside, fear isn't an emotion. It's a weapon, and everyone's armed." Every inmate's cell, no matter how small, is his world, his walls, his privacy, his control. Entering without permission is one of the highest forms of disrespect. Even guards knock. Some inmates decorate their cells, like homes photos, letters, makeshift shelves, drawings. Others keep them empty, sterile, as if to say, "I'm not staying here forever." But the rule remains universal. Never touch another man's belongings. Never sit on his bunk. Never go through his locker. Because in a place where you have nothing, your cell is everything. It's the last piece of identity the system couldn't take. Violence isn't random in prison. It's ritual. It's planned. And it's always justified by their logic. Every hit, every attack, every fight happens for a reason, a message, a warning, or a debt unpaid. When an inmate breaks a rule, there's a quiet meeting in the yard. Then, someone gets checked. It could be a beating. It could be worse. No guards. No witnesses. Just silence and fear. Sometimes, the punishment is carried out by a friend, because refusing an order means you're next. In prison, the most dangerous thing isn't the violence. It's the calm that comes right before it. There's a justice system inside the justice system. One that doesn't use lawyers, courts, or paperwork. If someone steals, cheats, or snitches, the inmates handle it themselves. Punishments range from self-therapy, a beating that leaves no trace, to kitchen duty, where accidents conveniently happen near boiling water. Sometimes, entire blocks agree to isolate someone, no talking, no help, no food trades. It's a psychological death sentence. And the guards? They know. But as long as the noise stays low and the cameras stay quiet, it's business as usual. Outside, logic makes sense. Inside, loyalty makes rules. You might be ordered to back someone in a fight you didn't start. You might have to lie for a man you barely know because he's part of your car, your group, your race. Deny that order, and you're not neutral, you're an enemy. That's why many inmates end up serving extra years for things they didn't even do. They weren't fighting for themselves. They were fighting for survival through loyalty. A former lifer once said, "In prison, loyalty is thicker than blood because blood can't protect you here." Behind bars, there's an economy more complex than Wall Street. Everything has value: soap, ramen noodles, coffee, even postage stamps. It's called the hustle. Some inmates run full-blown businesses, from their cells, laundry services, tattoo shops, even gambling rings. But the real power isn't in the goods. It's in favors. A favor owed can buy you food, protection, or silence. A favor unreturned can destroy your reputation overnight. And just like the outside world, inflation exists too. What costs one favor today might cost 3 tomorrow. It's not about money. It's about control. In prison, silence isn't awkward. It's sacred. Men spend years speaking only when necessary. They learn to listen more than they talk, because every word can be twisted, repeated, or used as a weapon. If you're smart, you learn the rhythm of silence: when to speak, when to stay still, and when to pretend you didn't hear. An old inmate once said, "Noise gets you noticed. Silence keeps you alive." Prison changes the way you feel time. Days stretch. Nights blur. A month can feel like a year. That's why one of the hardest rules to follow is the one no one says out loud. Don't let time kill you before your sentence does. Some men work out obsessively. Some read. Some lose themselves in routine, sweeping the same floor every day, just to stay sane. Because once you lose track of time, you lose track of yourself. But what if I told you there are prisons where even these rules don't apply? Where gangs don't control the yard because something worse does? Where men vanish in solitary and come back different? Where silence isn't safety, it's fear. Those are the prisons where rules don't protect you anymore. They own you. There's prison. And then there's Supermax. Places like ADX Florence in Colorado, called the Alcatraz of Iraqis. Here, the rules don't come from inmates. They come from the architecture itself. No noise. No contact. No escape. Inmates spend 23 hours a day inside concrete boxes barely bigger than a parking space. Their only window faces the sky, so they'll never know where they are. It's not built to hold men. It's built to erase them. In Supermax, you learn the hardest rule of all. Trust no one. Because the man who smiles at you today might be the same one who betrays you tomorrow just for a lighter sentence. Inmates here are often isolated, but communication still happens through coded notes, whispers through pipes, or even taps on walls. But every connection comes with risk. In a place where everyone's desperate, loyalty has an expiration date. And trust? It's the fastest way to lose control. In solitary, there's only one thing that keeps your sanity from slipping: routine. Wake up. Push-ups. Reading. Writing. Thinking. Repeat. Every action becomes a thread that keeps your mind from unraveling. Miss one day, skip one step, and the silence starts whispering back. Former inmates describe hearing things that weren't there. Voices. Knocks. Footsteps. Because the mind, when starved of sound, starts creating its own noise. In solitary, you don't go crazy all at once. You fade one silent day at a time. In the world's toughest prisons, the battles aren't fought with fists, they're fought in the mind. Guards use lights that never turn off. Music that plays all night. Doors that clang at random hours. Why? Because exhaustion is control. A former inmate from Pelican Bay said, "They don't have to beat you. They can break you with silence." The strongest prisoners here aren't the ones with muscles. They're the ones who can stay alone with their thoughts and not go insane. Walls talk in Supermax not with words, but with codes. Scratched initials. Hidden carvings. Tiny messages etched with smuggled nails or fragments of metal. It's how inmates remind each other they exist. In a place where conversation is forbidden, even a mark on the wall becomes rebellion. A silent scream that says, "I was here. I matter." Those walls hold stories that will never be written down, because no one on the outside would believe them anyway. Every man who walks into a maximum security cell faces a choice: adapt or disappear. Adapting means letting go of who you were. You move differently. You think differently. You even breathe differently, slower, quieter, calculated. Some call it institutionalization. Others call it evolution. The truth is, it's both. Because to survive years of isolation, a man must become something else. Someone who no longer needs the outside world to stay alive. And that's what makes leaving prison harder than surviving it. Then there are the lifers, the men who'll never see the outside again. For them, the rules aren't about serving time. They're about building empires inside the walls. Lifers run economies, settle disputes, and even mentor young inmates, not out of kindness, but strategy. The longer you're inside, the smarter you become at playing the system. One inmate with 40 years inside once said, "You don't do time. You learn how to live with it." To outsiders, that sounds tragic. To insiders, it's just another rule of survival. Behind bars, information is the new currency. Knowing who's about to be transferred, who's in debt, or who's cooperating with guards can make or break your safety. Some inmates act as messengers, others as brokers trading gossip for cigarettes or protection. Even the guards are part of the game. A single overheard radio call can spark riots or alliances overnight. And when you control information, you don't just survive, you own the prison. There's a rule that every inmate learns. Don't let them see you break. Because once they see you crack, once they see the tears, the fear, the weakness, you're done. Whether it's another inmate or a guard, someone will use it. They'll test you, push you, remind you. That's why men in solitary stare blankly into cameras, not because they're numb, but because showing pain gives it power. And inside these walls, the only thing more dangerous than losing control is letting someone know that you've heard the rules, the unspoken codes that decide who survives and who vanishes. But there's one final truth no one talks about, that even when you leave these walls, the prison doesn't leave you, because the hardest rule of all is learning how to live again. When the gates finally open, freedom doesn't always feel like freedom. For many inmates, the first breath of outside air is overwhelming, too bright, too loud, too alive. Years of concrete and steel condition the mind to silence. And suddenly, the world is too much. Simple choices, what to eat, where to go, who to trust, become unbearable. As one former inmate said, "You spend years dreaming of freedom, then realize you've forgotten how to live it." You can walk out of prison, but the rules follow. Always watch your back. Don't stare too long. Keep your distance. Don't speak unless spoken to. These habits become reflexes, invisible scars that shape how ex-prisoners move through life. Even years later, they'll avoid crowded places, sleep facing doors, and flinch at sudden noises. Freedom doesn't erase survival instincts. It just gives them new shadows to hide in. In prison, silence is power. On the outside, it becomes isolation. Many ex-inmates struggle to reconnect with families, not because they don't care, but because words no longer come easily. Inside, silence kept them safe. Outside, it keeps them apart. One man who spent 12 years in solitary said, "I didn't know how to talk to people anymore. I forgot how to look them in the eye." Some never unlearn it. They live quietly, like ghosts in their own lives. You can explain the rules. You can describe the walls. But no one who hasn't lived it will ever truly understand. The paranoia, the hypervigilance, the constant mental math of survival. Friends might say, "You're free now. Move on." But in the mind of someone who's lived by the prison code, moving on isn't an option. It's an alien concept. Because prison doesn't just change how you live. It changes who you are. Even decades later, some rules remain carved in the mind. Don't show weakness. Don't trust anyone. Don't hope too much. And those rules, once meant to protect, become prisons of their own. For some, the outside world becomes harder to survive than the inside ever was. Because behind bars, every threat was visible. Out here, it's everywhere and nowhere. There's one final rule that every former inmate learns. One that no one talks about. You don't escape prison. You carry it. In the way you walk. The way you think. The way you never sleep too deeply. Freedom isn't a clean break, it's a slow detox. And for some, they never finish the withdrawal. Behind every barbed wire fence lies a world built on rules. Some made by the system, others by the people trapped inside it. Rules that dictate who eats, who bleeds, who survives. Rules that aren't written in ink, but in scars. And for every man who walks free, there's a part of him still counting days, still hearing the echo of a cell door closing. Because the truth about prison is this: you never really leave it. Not entirely. Every cell tells a story. Every rule hides a reason. Every man who enters learns that survival isn't about strength, it's about adapting. Some follow the rules. Some break them. But in the end, the rules always win. Now that you've seen inside the world most people never will, ask yourself, could you survive it? Could you learn the codes? Could you play by the rules that were never meant to be broken? Because once you understand the prison code, you realize it's not just about confinement. It's about control. And, in a way, we're all serving time somewhere. If this story shocked you, imagine what's still hidden behind the next cell door. Hit subscribe because next time, we're going deeper into the places the world tries to forget. This isn't just prison. It's a universe with its own laws.